breaking barriers and bridging the gaps between patients and doctors. Welcome to Brainstorming with the Docs and your co-hosts, Dr. Glenn Harrison and Dr. Kolby Condos.
All right, everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Brainstorming with the Docs. I'm Dr. Kolby Condos, my co-host and good friend, as always, Dr. Glenn Harrison.
Hey, man. How's happening?
It going?
I'm doing good. I know we were talking already. It's a long way from hunting season, but we're already talking about hunting season.
I am excited for
Fall.
like the change of seasons, the cooler weather, the death of those blood-sucking mosquitoes and the ticks. I'm not a fan of those.
And it's a time of year where there's a transition. It's almost like the air is fresher and cleaner, and it's like the toxins disappear.
Right. Everything's clean, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like the same thing in winter. The first fresh white snow, everything's clean and fresh and good to go. Mm-hmm. So that was a beautiful segue. Beautiful segue. The imagery was amazing. So today on Brainstorming, we're going to talk about detoxification, what that means, when you should consider doing it, and, is there a safe way of doing so?
That's right.
If this is your first time watching on YouTube or listening to us on, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, whatever you're doing, and you get value out of the content, please hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications because we're going to continue to roll out this content each week. So without further ado, let's talk detoxification. Where does it happen?
The buzzword, right?
It's a big buzzword.
It's like, really, we're going to talk about detoxification. I think it's important because so many people think it's, I'm just going to eat this weird food or drink dandelion root tea and have the squirts forever, right? And everything is, I'm going to be clean myself where I have to completely evacuate everything out of my body.
Google told me this was going to be like super easy, effective, and I would not feel a thing.
That's right. And it's very powerful if it's done right in the right way. So hopefully we can kind of break that down. So what is detox? Well, it's just eliminating toxins, and toxins have to come out from the body in one of three ways, if not all three: our stool, our urine, and our sweat. And that's kind of just the gist of it. And there's so many different metabolic pathways for it. And I think it's important to know that if the body has what it needs, you shouldn't need to regimentally detoxify like it's a New Year's resolution thing. You should be on the up and up and be able to follow through. However, not everybody's hardware and bodies are running properly, or do they even live up, a decent or healthy lifestyle. And then that's when problems start to happen. And that's when we need to start considering detoxification.
Well, I think the biggest part with detox too, especially when you look at the buzzwords, right, is that people think that it's going to springboard them to this like avenue of health, right? Which may be the case for some people.
Not that common. Yeah.
Well, and it's got to be done correctly, and it's got to be done safely, because there's sometimes you're going to feel absolutely worse.
Yeah.
So, when we look at it,
well, maybe we take a step back a little bit about, how, what is the burden of toxins? And I know we're pulling some stats here, and this is the World Health Organization said that deaths by exposure to hazardous chemicals increased 29% between 2016 and 2019. That's almost 30% difference in 3 years. 2 million people died due to toxic exposure to hazardous chemicals in 2019, but 1.56 million people died in 2019 versus 2016. So, 500,000 people, more people died literally in 3 years from 2016 to just from toxic exposure.
So what does this mean? I mean, that basically means that we are being subjected to more toxins in our environment, right? Mm-hmm. That's just the fundamental breakdown of it.
Yeah. And the chemicals that we're making, that we're manufacturing, are always becoming more and more designed to be more resilient in the environment. And if they're more resilient to break down from the environment, so they work better in industry or whatever it is, the human body doesn't understand these chemicals. And if they can't break down in the environment, sure as heck that the body's going to have a much harder time to excrete them. And so, we're building an environment and a world where these toxins are harder and harder to get out of our bodies.
Well, and then they basically accumulate, right? Mm-hmm. And they concentrate.
Bioaccumulation, for sure.
So then you look at stuff like the perfect example of this is like they pulled salmon out of the the Pacific Ocean off the coast of California, and they tested estrogen levels in there. And like a ton of these salmon tested positive for birth control. It's like,
I think I read that. It's madness.
It's like, so how, it's not that all of a sudden fish.
Is it, is it a fertility problem?
Yeah.
Infertility problem, or is it, we've got contraceptives in our food?
Right. So, I mean, it's a really real thing, and you're going to be exposed. So you want to make sure that the natural physiological processes that we have in place
are working optimally,
are working the way they should. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, so what should be considered when, a detox program, when pursuing a detox program, what should be considered?
I mean, I always, when I've been approached with this question, I'm sure you have too. Like, you think I should do a detox? I'm like, well, what makes you think you need to do it? So first thing always is, what are your physical symptoms? Do you have like a bunch of itching in your skin? Do you have urticaria? Do you have, elevated cholesterol levels? Are you turning yellow? You have jaundice. Are you having issues with your gallbladder? And then what you can do is you start to correlate these with some lab findings, right? Do you have elevated liver enzymes? Do you have elevated, whatever?
You're trying to paint the picture of both physical symptoms and pairing it, trying to match it with laboratory tests. So you can
trying to correlate it, right? So you can definitively say, this might be something that we want to explore. I mean, there's something even as simple as your skin. Like if you want to look at an organ that will show you like someone's health, right? Physically, it's their skin,
Yeah, that's for sure. It's
definitely dermatitis. Is it acne? Is it seborrheic dermatitis? Do you have, all these type of things?
It's definitely a product of what's going on inside. I've seen all sorts of things. You ever see those people? I don't even know the name of them, but people call them liver spots. You ever see those or hear them? And I remember years ago in practice, and we would work on people's GI tract. We started getting into detoxification, and I had like this one lady. She said, my liver spots are just kind of going away and flaking off. I'm like, that's weird. Like I was like, I never said that can't be, but I was like, I don't understand that. And then it happened again. And then it happened again. And then it happened again. And then you look pictures of the people that we'd work with, and you would see before and after pictures, their complexions would change drastically. So to kind of make the case of how skin is a reflection of what's going on inside of the body, or a level of toxins is serious. It's very consistent.
Yeah.
So that's, the labs, and how do you know if you need it? And hopefully you're working with someone that kind of correlate lab findings and physical symptoms, rather than just a New Year's resolution. I need a detox. Well,
how do you know? Yeah. Maybe make sure first.
I drank 18 gallons of whiskey over New Year's. Well, maybe I need to. Well, maybe you need some counseling. Not necessarily a detox program. Well, it could be a detox, but it might involve withdrawals. So how you're doing. What are the strategies to detox? Well, diet. We've harped on diet all the time.
We do it every week.
One of the first rules of health is to remove the poison. It's not adding more other crap in, like mountains of supplements and all that. If you're eating a standard American diet, and then you're gonna, go and buy 3 months worth of detox products, well,
maybe just start at the bottom and don't eat junk.
Yeah, get rid of the junk, because
get some quality stuff that's going to support you.
Yeah, those powders and potions are not going to offset that the poison you're taking.
And here's the thing. So say you do the detox, right? But then you go right back to the habits that got you there in the first place, right? That's why I think that what the type of, healthcare that we provide is so effective for a lot of people is that you're giving them the tools so that they don't necessarily need all the other stuff once you give them the strategies and the skills to cook, eat, exercise,
Yeah, they can navigate through it on their own. They should be able to. Yeah.
So that leads to the next one, right? Is exercise. We just talked about moving it out, right? You got to do it through stool, urine, or sweat. Good way to sweat it out is by exercising.
Activity. Right? And also, any kind of movement, any kind of physical activity promotes gastric motility. So so there's many different concepts of causes of toxicity. We're talking about always ingestion, but if someone has a GI problem, and we talk about leaky gut, intestinal permeability, or just constipation, like how often do you see someone with constipation in your clinic, Dr. Kolby?
Oh, very frequently. I had one yesterday.
Yeah, I had 2 today. And you ask, well, okay, well, how are your bowel movements? And then they say, and
Well,
maybe maybe
bad.
someone's listening to this says, yeah, not bad, normal. And they're like, okay, well,
You're like, what's normal look like? I usually go like once every 3 or 4 days. You're like,
that's not normal. And something as simple as not being able to we did a podcast on constipation. Just not being able to poop you're going to be toxic. You are going to be toxic. It's going to stretch your intestine, and you're going to up with all sorts of toxins, funneling in some aspect of your system. And I remember had a colleague one time. He said there's 3 rules to detoxification. What did he say? He said pooping, pooping, gallbladder, something else. I don't know what it was, but he had the gallbladder in there and pooping. So there was 2 major pieces. I don't know what he said the third.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to be able to, you pass.
Void your bowels, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just waste. That's literally, that's metabolic waste.
And if we're carrying it
sitting
around,
in there.
Yeah, if we're carrying it around, there's going to be a problem. So exercise, that'll help with gastric motility and bowel movements as well. But constipation is a whole nother. Well, there's a podcast.
And then we don't have to beat it again. We don't have to beat it.
We don't need to get
listen to it on your own time.
But then the third one is, it's in the hierarchy for a reason: diet, activity. And the third one is, that's when you get into kind of all the supplement works and nutraceuticals and detox strategies and all of that. And there's a lot to it. And I think the most important thing is be careful what you buy. We've done a podcast just on, what are, on supplements, high quality. Yeah. Because not all supplements are created equal, and you can get toxic from supplements. It's been done a million times.
Yeah. And the thing is that you always want to do it under like qualified supervision, right? Because those things are designed. If you get a really high quality, supplement, they are designed with intention.
Yeah.
They are designed to do something. And if you just go out and you're like, oh, I just bought it off Amazon, it's a really high quality thing, and you don't know what you're doing, it can end poorly for you, right? It really can.
It really can.
GI upsets, your liver, which is a big part of the detoxification pathway, the hepatic detoxification pathway. That thing is responsible for metabolizing like hormones, all sorts of stuff. So it can cause changes in hormones even. It can drop energy levels because you're,
That's right. And those are even some common symptoms. And sometimes some of them can be tolerated, but when the symptoms get too severe, a detox should be gentle and smooth. It should be kind of, coercing your body gently to get the toxins out of the body versus getting hit with a sledgehammer and then recovering from mountains of cocktails of supplements that your body isn't ready for. And everybody detoxes at a different rate. So, if you have someone that's monitoring everything properly and doing it the right way, you can get the benefits without the trauma. And hopefully the trauma isn't, too severe. Yeah. And energy, detoxification always requires energy. So it's metabolic dependent. It's energy dependent. So whatever the efforts are, there's probably going to always be a little bit of a drop in energy, but it shouldn't be drastic. So if you are, experimenting with a dandelion root tea and going hard into that stuff, you shouldn't feel beat with that. That's going too far. Right. So there's some simple things to be careful with. And in my clinic, and I know you probably have a hierarchy of it in your clinic, the 2 most risky supplements, and we both have lots in our clinic. We got everything in our clinics because they're major tools. The 2 most risky that I see in my clinic for causing a problem are the detox products and probiotics.
Yep.
Is that?
I was going to say I have a gut repair one that's like supposed to help with the repairing of the lining of your gut. But if you use it inappropriately or you don't do your research before, I told you about this one.
Yeah.
This one is bad. It's bad. So.
Yeah, it'll light you up. So it's supposed to do relieve symptom X. But if it's not right for you without having the right clinical insight, it causes X times 10. And then you're like, wow, this is the worst thing in the world. And now I'm going to suffer.
This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, this maybe should have investigated a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah. So be careful with these things. They're very, very, very powerful. And they are kind of number 3 on the list.
Yeah. Always want to start at the easiest, right? And the most sustainable. It's pretty easy to it's a lot cheaper too to just change your diet a little bit and exercise.
Yeah, well, people like to jump in the supplements first because they believe that's easier.
Yeah, not always, right?
Not always.
And as always, if you are considering doing this, highly recommend finding someone that is qualified to help you do so.
Yeah, someone who's going to guide you through it and has seen it already, so you're not kind of experimenting with your own body and causing some problems. So, how do you know if a product, I guess, is safe for you? We touched on this. Well, that's a big question to answer. Detox products have lots of ingredients in them, and that's usually a problem all by itself, or a risk, because the more ingredients, then you can have all sorts. If you have a reaction with one, you don't know unless you've taken it. So that once again, reinforcing having somebody kind of keep an eye on you while you're walking through this path. What's an acceptable symptom? What isn't an acceptable symptom? What is the right dose and what is the wrong dose? Very, very important. So yeah, come New Year's, don't just fall into, okay, I'm going to do a New Year's resolution and some crazy detox product. Maybe do a detox diet if it's real food before diving into detox products on your own.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I think this pretty well wraps it up. If you guys liked this episode and you'd like us to do more stuff like that, you can always get a hold of us. Our email associated with the podcast is info@brainstormingwiththedocs.com. You can find a lot of information on our websites, especially Dr. Glenn's. His website is drgharrison.com. Mine is northlakeschiropractic.com. And again, hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications so we can continue to roll out this new content. And stay tuned because another one's coming next week.
That's right. All right. Well, you have fun. I look forward to the next one.
Sounds good, bud.
Bye-bye.